I'm Adam.
And I'm Sugar.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way. Hey, Sugar, how's it going?
Hey, Adam. Chilling like a polar bear. You know, literally. How about you?
Just another day herding a bunch of energetic kiddos. Hey, speaking of kiddos, do you ever miss being a cub at the Bronx Zoo?
Oh, man. Those were the days. Especially the ice treats they used to give us. But you know what I really miss? Bagels.
Bagels? Really?
Yeah, bagels. Haven't had one since I was a little cub. You can take the bear out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the bear. You feel me?
I see what you did there. Well, you're in luck because I just happen to have a bagel with me.
You just carry around bagels in your pocket? You're like the bagel fairy.
Consider it a nostalgic treat from one city dweller to another.
Oh boy, I can already taste the memories.
Just don't get any cream cheese on your fur or you'll be smelling it like a deli for days.
No promises, my friend, no promises.
Today's book explores the value of caring and sharing, building a strong sense of community, and finding joy in giving thanks. Let's get started. Bagels from Benny by Aubrey Davis, illustrated by Dušan Petričić. The sun was just waking up when Benny ran downstairs to Grandpa's bakery. He always helped Grandpa before he went to school. He swept the floor and dusted the shelves. He put cookies and cakes on the counter. He put bagels and buns in the bins. Benny loved to help his grandpa. People bustled in and out of Grandpa's bakery all day long. Some bought bread and some bought cake. Some bought apple strudel. Everyone bought bagels. Grandpa baked the best bagels in town. "So crusty outside," Mrs. Silver declared.
So soft inside,
added Mr. Gold.
"You put love in your bagels," gushed Mrs. Green. "Thank you so much."
Grandpa handed Mrs. Green a bag full of bagels.
Why thank me?
He asked.
"And who else should I thank?"
laughed Mrs. Green. Just then the clock struck 8.
"We'll be late for work," cried Mrs. Silver.
"Dear me," gasped Mr. Gold.
"Toodaloo,"
sang Mrs. Green, and they scurried out the door.
Benny was puzzled. "Why shouldn't Mrs. Green thank you? You make the bagels."
Grandpa lifted Benny onto the counter.
Benny, he asked, aren't bagels made with flour?
"Yes," said Benny.
Doesn't flour come from wheat?
"Yes," Benny nodded.
Where does wheat come from?
"From the earth," answered Benny.
And who made the earth?
"God did,"
Benny replied. Grandpa smiled.
Then thank God for the bagels.
It was a good idea. Benny closed his eyes.
"Thank you, God,"
he whispered. Then he waited.
"Did he hear me, Grandpa?"
You ask difficult questions,
Grandpa chuckled.
God always hears you.
But Benny wasn't so sure. If God had really heard him, why didn't he answer? At school that day, Benny did no work. He didn't read and he didn't write. At recess, he sat alone in the shade of a tall maple tree.
"What's wrong?"
asked his teacher. "What's wrong?" asked his friends. "I'm thinking," Benny sighed. Benny was still thinking when he went to bed that night.
"Maybe God didn't answer because I didn't thank him properly,"
he yawned.
Maybe there's some other way to thank God for his bagels.
Benny fell asleep.
Benny's really taking his time thinking this over.
I was thinking we could take a day to reflect on life, just ponder the mysteries of the universe.
Reflect? Ponder? Mysteries of the universe? Wow, that sounds deep. But, can we also reflect on why humans put pineapple on pizza? That's a real mystery to me.
We can add that to the list of perplexing questions. But seriously, I think it's important to take a break sometimes and just think about things.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I spend most of my day swimming around munching on ice and occasionally scaring the visitors. Maybe it's time I dive deeper into my inner polar bear thoughts.
Exactly, and who knows, maybe you'll come out of this reflection session with a whole new perspective on life.
Yeah, or at least a better understanding on why humans think socks and sandals are a good idea.
Early Friday morning, a little sunbeam danced into Benny's bedroom. It jumped onto his pillow and tickled his eyelids until they opened. Benny's eyes sparkled in the sunlight. Suddenly, he had an idea. He leaped out of bed and ran downstairs. That morning, Benny worked very hard in the bakery.
Grandpa, he asked, would you pay me for my work?
Grandpa raised his eyebrows.
Pay you? How much?
A big bag of bagels, replied Benny.
Why bagels?
Grandpa asked.
It's a secret, whispered Benny.
Grandpa laughed and gave Benny a huge bag full of bagels. Benny took them to the synagogue.
This is where people speak to God, he thought. Maybe I can thank him here.
He opened the door and peeked inside. It was dark and very still. Benny trembled.
Maybe I shouldn't. It's not prayer time.
But Benny took a deep breath and walked in. He tiptoed past empty wooden benches. He climbed the stairs to a big wooden cupboard, the Holy Ark. His heart pounded. He could barely breathe.
Maybe I shouldn't open it. Maybe God won't like it. The Torah is inside and it's his special book.
But Benny took a deep breath and pulled the doors open.
King of the universe, he whispered, I brought you some bagels. I know you make them, but you never taste them because Grandpa sells every last one.
Benny put the bag in the ark and closed the doors.
Thank you for making the best bagels in town, Benny whispered.
Then he ran off to school. On Saturday, Benny and Grandpa went to the synagogue. Everyone prayed and sang, but not Benny. He kept his eyes on the doors of the ark.
Had God eaten the bagels?
He wondered. When the ark was opened and the Torah was taken out, Benny looked inside. The bagels were gone. His heart skipped and his eyes danced.
I'm so glad you like them, he whispered. I'll bring you more.
Say, Adam, have you ever been to synagogue?
Synagogue? No, I can't say I have. Why do you ask, Sugar?
Well, I thought you might want to join me sometime. It's a very special experience.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm not really religious.
That's okay. You don't have to be religious to appreciate a good sermon. Plus, they always have honey of a spread at the end.
A honey of a spread, you say? Well, you do have a point there.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll find your inner barnacle spirit.
Inner barnacle spirit? You're really selling me on this one, Sugar. All right, I'll give it a shot.
Fantastic. Just remember to wear your warmest coat. It can get pretty chilly in there, but it's nothing compared to my Arctic adventures.
Thanks for the heads up, Sugar. I'll make sure to bundle up. Who knows, maybe synagogue will become my new favorite chill-out spot.
That's the spirit. I can't wait to show you around. Get ready for a positively awesome time.
Oh boy, I can hardly bear the anticipation. Week after week, Benny worked in Grandpa's bakery. Every Friday, Grandpa gave him bagels, and every Friday, Benny gave the bagels to God. Grandpa became curious. What was his grandson doing with all those bagels? One Friday, he followed Benny to the synagogue. He waited in the shadows and watched.
They're still warm, just the way you like them, murmured Benny.
He opened the ark and put the bag of bagels inside.
What are you doing?
Grandpa bellowed. Benny spun around.
Grandpa, he gasped, I'm thanking God.
You put in bagels in God's holy ark,
cried Grandpa.
But he likes the bagels, insisted Benny. Every week he eats them all.
Oh, Benny,
Grandpa laughed.
God doesn't need to eat. He doesn't have a mouth or a stomach. He doesn't even have a body.
He doesn't? Benny frowned. Then where do the bagels go?
Grandpa looked at the ark. He looked at Benny. He stroked his beard and scratched his head.
I don't know,
he sighed. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. Grandpa put a finger to his lips and pulled Benny into the shadows. In walked a man in a tattered coat. He took the bag of bagels from the ark.
Oh, Lord, I was so hungry, he sobbed. For weeks you fed me. From heaven you sent such beautiful bagels.
He tucked the bag under his coat.
I have good news for both of us, he said. I found work.
He wiped away his tears.
Now I can feed myself, and you can stop baking bagels.
The man smiled as he quietly closed the cupboard.
You helped me, Lord. Now I promise to help others.
Then he left. Benny buried his face in Grandpa's coat and wept.
God didn't eat my bagels. The poor man took them.
Grandpa's eyes grew wide with wonder.
Benny, he asked, you wanted to thank God?
Yes.
Benny sniffed.
Well, you did, said Grandpa.
How?
Benny asked.
Didn't you give bagels to a hungry man? Asked Grandpa.
Yes,
Benny replied.
Didn't he promise to help others?
yes.
Benny nodded.
Then you made the world a little better, said Grandpa.
I did?
Benny wondered.
You did.
Grandpa smiled.
And what better thanks could God have?
So picture this. It's Monday morning, the kids are hyped up on sugary cereal, and I'm just trying to teach them fractions, you know? The usual chaos.
Sounds like a typical day in the classroom.
Exactly. And then, just when I think I've got everything under control, Tommy decides to launch his paper airplane into the fish tank.
Oh no, poor fishies.
Right? And here comes the funny part. Instead of panicking, the kids all rallied together to save the fish. They formed a human chain and scooped them out one by one.
That's incredible. Teamwork makes the dream work, even if the face of flying paper hazards.
Exactly. You know what else? They turned it into a math lesson. We counted the fish, calculated their average size, and even measured the water temperature to make sure they were comfy.
Wow, those kids are smarter than I thought.
And get this. After all the chaos settled down, they asked if they could make get well soon cards for the fish. They even drew little pictures and wrote sweet messages.
That's adorable. Those fish are gonna feel like celebrities.
So you see, even though things didn't go according to plan, it turned into a lesson about compassion, teamwork, and thinking on your feet. And if you want to make us feel like celebrities, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm Adam.
And I'm Sugar.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way. Did you know the earliest known mention of a bagel is in Poland in the early 1600s? Bagels are the only bread that are boiled before being baked.